4.0 functionalities and companies. So herewith I'm about to introduce Dr. Krishnan Umachandran, who is experienced and exposed to all spheres such as production to manufacturing of beverages, pharmaceuticals, building tiles, footwear, medicals, surgical device, foundries, electricals, and much more. And currently he is serving as a general manager and manages the performance of India's largest gray and SG iron foundry with 3 factories with an installed capacity of 1,40,000 TPA in 3 locations. He has a passion for research, and of course, he has published n number of research articles. And for the consecutive 6 to 7 years, he has been publishing about 10 and more number of publications. And for an industrial expert to be in industries and to compete with their research, it's a great thing, and we love it, sir. And continuously, sir learns a lot of attempting experimentation, innovations, and networking. And he is a master and a leadership and related to organization building and development. And basically, sir is a mechanical engineer with specialization in technological operations. And of course, he has completed his doctorate degree, Doctor of Philosophy from Dr. MGI University. And he has a vast industrial experience. Right now, he is with Nelcast, and he has experience with Larsen and Tubro, and then Hindustan Motors, Indian Pistons, Southern Railways, and English Electricals, and much more. He is also a teaching lecturer, adjunct lecturer in many colleges, and so on. For sure, I'm quite confident that his session will give us a lot of information and a lot of research ideas, which has been right now going on with industries and much more. Thank you, Professor, for accepting our invitation, and the dais is yours. We welcome you, sir. Welcome. Sir, please turn on your mic, sir. Sir, could you please turn on your mic? My dear fellow participants, please hold on. Sir will join in a few minutes. Yes, Professor, you have joined up. Sir, you need to yeah. I hope now we are.
Sorry.
No issue, Professor. You most
welcome. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to join your conference, and I'm willing to share a lot of ideas and experience which I have with me. I happened to hear the previous speaker also speaking about additive manufacturing. So accordingly, I'll tune my inputs in that portion of the technology. And anyhow, you would have heard about the introduction to Industry 4.0 since yesterday, that is on 9th of October. So I will limit myself to the part of introduction which is required for Industry 4.0. I'll get into the content called functionalities and companies. Right. See, Industry 4.0 has 3 verticals. One is called the technology, second is called the functionalities, and third is called the features. All 3 are not silos. They are all interconnected. So I'm going to communicate on the part of functionality using technology and the feature. That is going to be the big picture which I'm going to create to you within another few minutes so that you can understand what I'm going to talk about for another 45 minutes. See, technology, this Industry 4.0 technology has a common thing which is called internet. So if you have internet, what happens is you need to first protect it. That is called cyber security. Cyber security is the important aspect or the technology that is required for Industry 4.0. Keep this aside. This Industry 4.0 cyber security technology should protect something. It protects first the data. The data is called the big data. Big data technology, you name it, number 1. This big data has to get some source of information. The source of information is from...
Dear Professor.
Yeah.
Sir, can you present your screen as well, like a PPT
No,
screen?
I don't have any
Oh, okay,
PPT.
sir. Fine, sir. Fine, sir. Thank you, sir.
This is from my experience, so there is nothing. And
Sure,
if you
sir.
want to
Thank
know,
you very much. Sir.
cool,
For
cool.
sure.
If you want to have any kind of a in a printed material or written material of mine, a researched material, it is already available on the web. So no issues. In the end, I will give you the connectivity. See, this internet, which is the one which is going to be featuring, so it will have the cyber security. This cyber security has to protect something. You take an analogy of an egg. If the white part is going to be your cyber security, then there is something called the yolk, which is the inner part in the Industry 4.0 technologies. The inner part is your big data, which is number one, and it can get inputs from your physical inputs. Physical inputs in Industry 4.0 are additive manufacturing and robotics. These are the two physical input creators in this Industry 4.0. So these two can be connected to big data only through IoT. So that is the fourth technology. So these four technologies, that is big data, IoT, additive manufacturing, and robotics, are to be protected through a technology called systems integration. That is the fifth technology. And these five technologies together can be simulated. Simulation is the sixth technology. And when you simulate, you have to check whether it is right, wrong, how is it working in the reality. That is called the augmented reality, which is the seventh technology. And all these seven will be placed in cybersecurity, and the cybersecurity will be rolled out in the cloud. That is the ninth technology. So Industry 4.0 has 9 technologies. But the face to these 9 technologies are the functionalities. Functionalities means, what do you mean by in an outward appearances? Outward appearances, if you take, it's called, it's a cyber physical. Cyber physical means you have a physical system, you have a computing device, and these two are connected. They are connected by 4 functionalities. One is called the interoperability, then transparency, real-time data acquisition and processing, and finally the fourth is digital automation. First, interoperability. Interoperability means you have a physical, you have a computing device. Both, if you operate one, it will show in the other. If you operate the another one, it will show in this one. So every function of both these are interconnected, which is interoperable. Then transparent. Whatever you do here is transparent over there, and whatever you do there is transparent over here. It means it will take care of all factors, practices, principles, material change, anything, whatever it is. Whatever you do in one area is known to another area. Then the third part is your real-time data acquisition and processing. Real-time in the sense, see, whatever you're doing at that juncture, it is reflected in the screen over there, and whatever you change in the screen has to be taken care in the reality. Then the last one is called the digital automation. Digital automation in the sense, whatever you program in the computing, the machine accepts per se. It takes everything, whatever is said. So these are the 4 functionalities on which Industry 4.0 sits. Any technology of Industry 4.0 sits. Now, to understand this better, we need to get into the crux of the content, which is called the features. Features in Industry 4.0 is CPS, AI, ML, PDM, DT. CPS means Cyber Physical System. AI is Artificial Intelligence. ML is Machine Learning. PDM is Predictive Data Modeling. And then DT means Digital Twin. All the technologies, which I'm going to tell further, is going to be connected with this sequence of features. This features of cyber physical system is the main important part of this. See, it is like any other physical machine what you have. See, for an operation definition or a kind of connectivity, if I say machine means it includes machines, devices, gadgets, equipments, everything. So anything which is workable, either to give you a product or to give you a service, is called a machine. This machine is connected with internet. That is what is a common phenomenon. But every mission of Industry 4.0, you take an outlook of a factory. A factory will have many machines. You take one machine, and with that machine, you connect a sensor. Sensor in the sense, it will give you the signals when the machine is functioning. As the machine functions, these signals will be spiking out data to the computer. When a sensor cannot directly send its signal to the computer, it has to be transfused and then it has to be converted into binary, and then it will go into the computer. But for simplicity, I'll say sensor. Sensor means it includes also all these transducing elements and the unit. This sensor, when it spikes signal, it comes to the computer, and from the computer it goes to IoT, and from the IoT it goes back to the physical system. This physical system now, as it is interlinked with other machines, this will function, and then the other machines will take up the load. So there is a connectivity throughout the factory for all the machines. This cyber physical system works on an architecture. It is called 5C architecture. See, 5C architecture is nothing but connection, conversion, cyber, cognition, and configuration. These are the 5Cs. Connection means you connect the machine with a sensor, tether the communication, and then plug and play. This is as simple as it is, but you should know what to do. That is important. Then the next level is conversion. Conversion is you convert the data into information based on the health, degradation, age of the machine, etc., along with performance. Then the third part is called cyber. This cyber machine has two constraints. One is called the time constraint and memory constraint. These have to be cluster programmed, analyzed, and then you have to data mine for maximization, minimization, or optimization of the performance of a machine. As I said, a factory or a company will not have only one machine. It will have a series of machines. So the next level called cognition will work on many machines. That is called for synthesis, diagnosis, simulation, visualization, decision making, anything. At an enterprise level, you use all machines together and then do it. The final is called self-configuration. Self-configuration is nothing but you have to have a control. Self-control of adjustments. It means taking care of all the variations. Variations can be from all parts. All inputs will have variations. And then process will have variations. But all these things should not affect your output. Then comes your resilience. Machines will have disturbances while it's having its input, while it's having its process. So all those things have to be controlled. So the machine is cyber physical enough to contribute to the requirements of an organization. This is called the CPS, cyber physical system. Okay, the next part to cyber physical system is AI. See, every machine, when it is fixed, connected with artificial intelligence, then the machine becomes quite intelligent enough to perform. Intelligence means what? Whatever is required is being delivered. That is the first part of intelligence. If you take time or if you don't do it in an appropriate way, then you are not intelligent. So how to make machines become intelligent is the crux in which we are going to work on it. See, machines with this cyber physical system have the artificial intelligence in a cascaded form. One is called the big data. Second is algorithm, processed algorithm, past experience, and then adjustment or scalability. This cascading has to be taken care. The first one is called the big data. Big data is nothing but it has 5 V's, volume, velocity, variety, veracity, and variability. Volume means big chunk. Second is one, you have velocity, it is captured in a very faster form. Then variety is going to be at different frequencies. Veracity is at different situations. And all these things, when you put together, it has to be first put into a position called warehousing. When you warehouse it, what happens is you stack it. And then you compute it in the form where the computer can understand it. It's called the computation part, where you can put it in table form or in matricizing forms and whatever it is. Then you send it to engineering. That is called the expert areas will look into this data and they'll say, okay, what can be taken? They'll apply the logics or patterns or whatever it is, and they do the reasoning, and then they send it to data mining. Here in data mining, they will be used or it will be hushed up. It means it will be sent out. See, this data is a very vulnerable data. It can be either used, misused, manipulated, or even hacked. Okay, before being hacked, I'll tell you, first part is hushed. That is, you ignore it. So if you have this kind of a vulnerability in these data, then you have to apply logics. The logics can be, between a data mining and a computing, you have to apply logical reasonings, and then you go on with patterns or use opportunities. And then finally, if you don't use it, somebody will use it. It's called hacking. Hacking here, I mean, is ethical hacking. But there are crude, intellectualities in our IT group and in our engineers who can do even illegal hacking. Okay, be whatever it is. This is the enriched data we are taking, and it is going to be going on to your algorithm. Algorithm is nothing but an equation. It can be a mathematical equation or a scientific equation with variables in a polynomial form. Polynomial means algebraic form, or it can take geometrical inputs, or it can take mensurational inputs, and then it can even take metrological inputs. Metrology means any device which gives inputs, like it can be temperature, pressure, velocity, acceleration, speed, your discharge, whatever it is. And then it goes on with calculation along with your biosensory inputs. This is called algorithm. But then this algorithm and big data are to be connected with past experience. Past experience means human beings know what is right and they continue to do. They know what is wrong and they stop doing it. That is called intelligence. But when you want to give this to a machine, you should know what to be programmed, that is right once, what should not be done. That's called the limits to the machine, that is controlling aspects. You also have a feedback from the machine and then you do it. Then finally you get your adjustment, your or scalability. Adjustments or scalability is nothing but you can take all the challenges, constraints, and then go on for innovation, updation, creativity, everything with a machine. This part of AI, when it is being fed to a machine, it is called machine learning. Machine learning is nothing but it is a artificial neural network. It is an application of AI. It learns from past experience. That is more important. But not only learns from past experience, it improves from past experience without explicit programming, and it has a linear perceptron. This is the macro level of a machine learning. So machine learning has the linear perceptron, which is called interactive features, data mining, and chatbot. Interactive means a machine can interact with one another or with a human being through graphs, maps, charts. Then what you can do is called the featuring. That is, you can model it, you can time it, you can deploy it for various resources. Then the machine takes over. That is called the data mining part, where you have the algorithm, hyperparameters, classification, regression. You have time series, anomaly detection. You also have forecasting. You can also include your decision tree, etc. These finally result the machine in a form of a chat or a text. The chatbot is having that text and the voice also. So this is the one which you are making ready for a machine to connect with you. But what happens is every algorithm cannot be on only in a polynomial formation, that is in an algebraic formation or in only in variables connection. There are certain things which are deciphered by these polynomial structures. That is called the deep learning. Deep learning is again an artificial neural network, but with a multiple layer of networks. It has non-polynomial actuation and it is having a hidden layer of unbounded width. I'll tell you why these characterization happens to deep learning. See, for example, you don't write everything in alphanumeral form. There are certain things you see which you cannot tell by words or you cannot decipher by numbers. Okay, then you smell certain things. You cannot put it into words and numbers. Then you speak. These things cannot also be done like that. And then you hear. There are many things which doesn't go into a polynomial structure. And then you touch. Those features cannot be taken up. And then you taste. So these are the biosensory informations that should also be given to a machine so that it becomes intelligent. That is called the deep learning. So how can you get this? Then you need to have sensors connected to the machine. These sensors are, for vision, you can have image CMOS, complementary metal oxide semiconductors, which can give you a monochrome or a color picture. So you hive it or you slice it over various times and frequencies and find out, and you learn from it. The machine learns from it. The second part is your smell. Volatile calorimeter, you can have infrared spectro, mass spectro, gas chromatography, all these things can be used for smell. And then speech. Speech is speaker dependent or speaker independent. Speaker dependent is your Google Voice Assistant. This is a good example for speaker dependent. And then you take on the sound. Sound is based on the acoustics. It works on all your pressure, amplitude, etc. So all these sensors will come for sound. Then touch. Your the best example is your touch screen. Your smartphone or your tab or whatever it is, you have a capacitive or a resistive touch. Then the taste. Taste is chemical sensor. It can be microbial sensor, pH sensor, or a titrative sensor. All these sensors will keep giving you information which has to be recognized, probabilistically analyzed, and then translated for a decision making. This is where the DeepL will help you facilitate. So ML becomes a DL. But ML doesn't stop there. You know, we are making machines for human consumption, the human use. When you want to make something ready for a human is more not only intelligent, he is smart. He can throw off a product at any point of a time telling a blink. So you need to position a product which will take care of the intentions, which is explicit and it is understood and accepted by a human being. That is where the more important part of creating a product with Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 doesn't limit itself only to additive manufacturing or any robotic skills. It is more on to reaching the customer, because your phone, which is a revolution of Industry 4.0, is in all the hands in every human being in the world. It is the best example of Industry 4.0, your smartphone. It has sensors, it has everything. It has replaced your telephone and it has replaced many gadgets. See, that is the strength of Industry 4.0. Now, I'm going to bring in other features, right? So this, in a person, if he is going to accept, we should know how smart he is, how he becomes smart, or how he shows his intelligence. Human beings shows their intelligence using OKVES tools. It's called, they use a lot of organizers. They get into knowledge resources. They use a lot of visualizations. Then they get into all expert opinions. And then they look into the signs, symbols, signals, gestures, etc. And accordingly, they perform. So a machine should be confident enough to be in a position where a human being can accept. So you have to model it in such a way. So when you want to model this machine, then what you have to do, you have to have the organizing skills into it. It's called, you have to look into a calendar, you have to look into a scheduler, you have to look into a reminder. It means to take care of all the time requirements based on which a human being is looking smart and acting smart. The machine should also be in a position to act smart. Then only this person will accept. Then the second part is knowledge. Human beings, they look into various resources for their knowledge. Like you look into Google, Wiki, or knowledge resources, or use any search engines to get. Similarly, a machine, for its requirement, it should be in a position to search around and find out what is the best possible requirement required for it at that juncture. Then it is your visualizations. We look into dashboards, graphs, maps, charts, etc., and we decipher certain things. Similarly, a machine should also understand all these features. And then comes your expert opinions, which is very unique to human being, that can also be given to machine. Where when you have problem, you don't know anything, you bounce back to an expert and get his opinion for astonishing breakthroughs. And then for surprising researches. And then for new path forwards. Similarly, these machines can also be linked with who are the experts that can be linked with that machine. It can be people, it can be organizations, it can be websites, it can be anything through which they can get the data, they can upgrade themselves and be updated on their functionalities. The final part is very unique, which is the human being does. We see body language, behavior, and then we tune our positioning. That is, we see sight, signs, symbols, signals, gestures, and all we look. Similarly, if a machine can understand the way how human beings are understanding, then it can deliver in a better way. There are sensors already into it. Electrooculogram. It can find your eye movements, where your attention is, where your concentration is, and what you like, where you spend more of your time in looking at it. If a machine can look into use oculogram, then it can find it. Then encephalogram, it can read your mind activity. Then dermal activity, whatever, you have the kind of emotions displayed. And finally, the facial. which is called the myograph. If all these things are fitted onto a machine, then the machine can also become intelligent. But one thing differs from human being to machine is human beings use all these things, but only on a short term. And we keep it only in a short term memory and use it only for a transient nature. We finish the work and we forget it. But when you load this content into a machine, the machine will become permanent and it will store it in its long term memory. It means it will become much more powerful than a human being on these aspects. So this is the positioning which we require for a cognition amplification in the machine. So the ML now went with the DL and then it goes for cognition amplification. So when you have this kind of a amplification done, then the machine learning is nothing but it has your big data, it has your algorithm, and it has your cognition correction and amplification leading to it will take care of adjustments. That means your variations. It will take care of your resilience. It will take care of the disturbances. And the third part, it will also recommendations is for the human deficiencies. See, human beings have a lot of deficiencies. See, one, attention. No two human beings have the same level of attention. Then thinking. No two human beings have the same level of thinking. Memory. No two human beings have the same level of memory. Then processing skills. No two human beings have the same level of processing skills. Then performance. No two human beings have the same level of performance. So all these things, if you put, then the machine becomes still more intelligent and dependable for a human being. So then the industry 4.0 positions itself for being acceptable. So this is what is called the next part of the first one. CPS we have done, AI we have done, and the ML we have completed. So now all these three put together is to be done on a gadget or a device or an equipment or a machine. That's called the PDM, predictive data modeling, for which the machine is being made. It has expectations that needs to be delivered, and it has to comply with the processes that needs to be functioned with. So all these things next move on to the part called digital twin. Digital twin is where you have the physical machine and you have the digital replica. In this, what happens is whatever components you have that will be in your digital form. When the machine is functioning, that will also shown in the digital form. This is called elements in a component form and dynamics in a functionality form. So it will have all the elements and dynamics, and then it is interoperable. This is where you get the interoperability. In interoperable form, you can take care of the real asset, and then it will take care of your operational flow, whatever it is required on the impact of operations like age, degradation, health. If the machine is continuously running, there will be a wear and tear. Those components have to be replaced. Signaling can come here and you change there. And once you change, it will automatically get updated. And it will also take into consideration the environmental impact. So this is the formation or the features with which the Industry 4.0 technologies are going to be connected with. Now, I will come on to how these features are being fitted onto a technology and who are the companies which are handling this. See, I have told you about the technologies, but to understand or remember all these technologies, I have created an acronym called 2S, 2C, 2A, IBR. 2S, 2C, 2A, IBR. 2S's, that is simulation, systems integration. 2C, cloud computing, cybersecurity. 2A, additive manufacturing, augmented reality. I for IoT, B for big data, and R for robotics. Easy to remember so that you can be in a position to use it whenever it is required. See, when we select people for Industry 4.0 industries, we expect three skills in human beings. One is called the recall, relate, and refine. So the more important is you should be in a position to give it quick, fast. That is more important than Industry 4.0. Okay. So this first simulation technology. Simulation is nothing but a pretentious or imitation scenario created for an automation. There are a lot of companies to do it. The main important are Solid Edge, CATIA, MATLAB. These are the premier, and all other things are there. I'm not going to explain all those. See, in the simulation, what happens is it starts with the drawing board. Whatever you are doing on the design stage can be captured in simulation form. Drafting can be done, products can be done, services, your quality, maintenance, safety, all these aspects can be simulated. So students, if you wish to take your specialization in simulation technologies, a good chance of getting an employment or going further, right? The next part is your systems integration. Systems integration is you have a hard physical system and you have a computing device. You have to connect both. I know integrated. And when you in an industry 4.0, there are processes that needs to be automated and there is a data that needs to be automated. Process automation is delivered by companies called Mitsubishi, Schneider, Siemens. And for data, all ERP companies like SAP, Oracle, Siebel, they give you leads of control. Now, this systems integration has to be divided into two forms. One is called the vertical integration, and second is called the horizontal integration. Vertical integration is when you have the data or your input of material going on into a company or in a factory, that gets processed and it checked at various stages. It is quality checked, and then you control the machines, and finally the output goes. Similarly, the data also goes through various modules, and then it goes out. This is called the vertical integration, which happens in one setup or one industry or one factory or one plant. Similarly, the things will also happen in various other plants, which is called the parallel flow. Parallel flow is nothing but you have supply chain management. You have a lot of sub-assemblers, assemblers, suppliers, vendors in different places. So you can automate them. In marketing, a lot of distributors. All these people can be integrated. This is the horizontal integration. The next is cloud computing. Cloud. Cloud is nothing but a pathway, just a pathway for all storages, servers, databases, networks, applications, your analytics, everything. It can protect it in a safe, simple, secure, place, so that nobody can get access to it or disturb it. So you have it in a protected form, in an innovative way, in a flexible way. See, but this computation and this data processing, if is not from the far away and it is kept nearer to the machine, it is called fog computing. It is nearer. And when it is placed on the machine itself, it is called edge computing. So in cloud computing, you have three. One, edge, that is on the machine, fog, nearer to the machine, and very far, it's called cloud. See, cloud computing will use big data and edge computing will use instant data. That's all. See, companies into this are all your SaaS providers, IaaS providers, PaaS providers. That is software as a service, SaaS, and platform as a service, PaaS. IaaS, infrastructure as a service, IaaS. All these companies are into it. So you have a lot of voluminous employment opportunities in these organizations. And then coming to the cybersecurity. See, when we have a lot of people working on together, so we cannot be very sure that the data is safe. So you need to assign rights to individuals. And then even if you assign rights, there'll be some kind of a problems which will be encountering as you go further, which is called the trails. You need to bounce back, see to that, and you trace back where the responsibility, accountability, or control is missing, and then do it. But all these investigations will lead to a kind of a time delay. You cannot make the organization wait for your data to be, find out your investigation be ready. So that is called DRS, disaster recovery system. From a different location, you take your database and then you put it onto the application, and without affecting the operational time, you bounce back and you run it. And in addition to this, you have your encryption, which is nothing but codification. All these things are done for avoiding intrusion. Intrusion is not done by people who are outsiders. It can be your own people who leave your organizations because they know all your passwords, they know all your processes. They are irritatable. They will, when they get in, they will do all kind of mischief. So you should know how to protect that. Then the malwares, they don't come in and barge in physically. They send you all kind of virus, trojans, kind of a spyware, ransomware, etc., so that they can disturb your data. Then the third part is called your hacking. They make you compromised. That is intrusion and malware together by sending a phishing, phishing, or they do a spam email. They create a bogus website. They try to capture your secret information on your banking and all those stuff. So they try to compromise you. This is called hacking, and they can even stop your website. And then the final part, all these things have to be taken care in a minimum incident time of response. You will have accidents. You cannot say, I will not have this. But once this incident happens, I quickly bounce back. That is called cybersecurity. These companies into this are Symantec, Microsoft, and you have Cisco. These are the people who are into this technology. Then additive manufacturing. Additive manufacturing is nothing but it's a 3D printing or a rapid prototyping where you have material deposition. It has all, it's a novel way. See, any new thing will not be accepted right, but it is going to change all our production technology that is currently existing now. The important thing of your additive manufacturing is it is going to bring in new ways of manufacturing process. It is called photo fabrication, sorry, optical fabrication, photo solidification, and then you have fused deposition, material extrusions, photo polymerizations, then material bed jetting, and then you have a lot of directed energy, laminations. Many types of new methods are being evolved through during this research of additive manufacturing. Companies into this are Opto Systems, Markforged, and Stratasys. In addition to this, there are many companies which are coming, but these are the premier ones into your additive manufacturing. Then comes the augmented reality. Augmented reality is nothing but when the line of sight of information syncs with the real world, then the computer takes off the process of operation. Now it's like a wearable or a screen on which you will have a computer generated image, and that when it syncs with the reality, from then on the action proceeds. See, it is similar to that of a Google Earth. When you click on the Google Earth, you keep coming down, 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 and finally you get into the streets and to buildings, 2D, 3D, etc. All these things are nothing but digital layers of content and information which is stacked. So as you click, 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 and you get onto the reality, then your GPS in your car will take. So similarly, this is where the additive reality comes. Then for this additive reality, the organizations are Alphabet, which is the mother company of Google, Apple, and Copel. These are the premier ones. Then IoT. IoT is nothing but you have, it is an interconnection between physical and a computing device. In higher order, it has exponential AIs. It uses quantum computing. It uses biodigital integration in areas like surgeries, etc. And companies into this are the leading Chinese Huawei, Weights, and PTC. Okay. Why I meant Chinese Huawei is if you get into Huawei, you will know what is you can browse and find out how supreme they are in the world. Then the next part is your big data. Big data is a voluminous data. I said, and it is finally onto the enriched data. More work is now handled on to customer relationship management, CRM. See, when you implement big data and you approach a shop and you want to pick up an item, even before you pick up an item, the shop customer or the shop keeper there will know what you are going to pick up. Such will be the transparency. They will know everything about you wherever you are given the authentication to be exposed with. So such area of opening is going to happen with big data because this is the prime data requirement. Okay, companies into this are very many. Okay, like VMware, you have IBM, Cloudera. These are the three prominent ones. And the final one is called the robotics. Robotics is nothing but you have a multiple camera or a vision embedded system where all the deterministic positioning and actuation by a machine is taken care. See, all this deterministic positioning can be done using this machine by an employee where his quality of work life will be improved. So he is safe, secure to perform it. It means this machine can work in all hard to access areas and then sources of contamination, which now human beings are exposed to. So all these things, Industry 4.0 is going to take care. So in such kind of a robotic industry, the companies which are into it and the premium ones are Piaggio, Boston Dynamics, Harvest Automation. Okay. Now you would be wondering why this guy is coming and telling about the companies and all this stuff. See, my target audience, you today, are in the crossroads. You can either go up, that is, you study more, you go for a higher education and do research, and you can still explore more. That's one opportunity. But not everyone is going to get into it, and many would be seeking employment. So then you should know what are the companies, what kind of offers they have, what kind of opportunities you have, who are the people all across the world. Because Industry 4.0 is not limited to one nation or a location. It is open to the world. You engineers have the world as an opportunity to move around. And the employment opportunity and the job available and the salary which is being offered is phenomenal. So find out which can be your future and then try to venture onto it. If you don't wish any of these two, then the third is what you can do on your own. That's called the enterprises creation or entrepreneurship. Try to do what you can do. What will be you will able to contribute on the future. See, this Industry 4.0 is going to have for another half a century, 50 plus years of existence. So you take which small area, which can be your niche area, try to work on it, develop it when you're studying, or even if you have studied also, you can invest your time into it, develop that, and then go on to it. See, finally, when you are going for all these three, then when I come to this part of employment, I want you people to get certified. Only when you are certified in these technologies, you will get employment. Otherwise, you can go for on-site, but you will be paid less than the certified. So it is better worth to invest your time and resource now when you're doing your engineering, get certified on all these technologies or any of these technologies which you think will be suitable enough to run your career or span of life. Because 50 years is not a joke. Your whole employment career will be over by then. So it is better to invest today and reap it in the future. Thank you. I'm willing to listen to your questions.
Dear Professor, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your valuable talk. You have not only gave us a glimpse of idea about Industry 4.0, but you have said where it is applicable, which industry is using it, what is the technology of IoT, what is cyber security has to be done, what is the role of students and researchers to work on simulation and other technologies. It was really eye-opening talk for us. Of course, we have never went through such talks, which has been given by industrial expert in order to know what is happening in the industry, what is the advanced technology for the next upcoming half a century. So it was really informative, sir. I hope the participants, as well as the students and the fellow colleagues, everyone who have listened to your talk, they would have been admired a lot, and they would have got a glimpse of idea for the research proposals to proceed on. And as you said, all the courses what we are going through, it has to be a certified one. For sure, we will ensure that we take up any certification course on this topic so that our students also do get benefited in order to improve the employability of the students and other things. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Now the forum is open to the participants. If you have any doubts, of course, I'm sure that we won't be having doubts, but since it is a new one, we might be eager to know something in extra. If there is anything, all the participants, you are most welcome to ask it up.
Okay. In case if we are open enough to ask, I'm willing to respond. No issues.
Yeah. Fine, sir. I hope everyone are clear. Actually, the talk was quite clear and straightforward, and you gave a position one with proper knowledge. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. I have one more thing.
Yes.
In case if you want to learn more, there is a YouTube channel in my name called Dr. Krishnan Umachandran. You can go through it. It is free. You can see it. Use it for all. Videos are entirely different. You can learn through it. And if you still have questions, you can ask through your people who have coordinated this conference, so that I will help you.
Sure, Professor. Thank you very much, sir. Hats off, and thank you very much.